Thanks for watching On Point. Professor Peter Delius is the author of a book that almost shares the same title as The Land is Ours by Advocate Tembeka Ngcukaithobi. Professor Delius has written The Land Belongs to Us, and he joins me in studio now to talk about this book. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Before we get into the substance of the book, this issue of land redistribution and expropriation without compensation. In 2002, there was a Mineral Rights and Petroleum Act that took away old order mining rights and placed them in government hands. And when this was challenged, it was found that it wasn't expropriation without compensation, in part because of national interest and the need to rewrite history. So what kind of lessons can we learn from this case? And do you think we'll be guided going forward by an example like that?
I think it was very important in a whole variety of ways. One of which is that it sets up a legal context in which you can, for national interest, take control of key rights. So it really supports those who are arguing that you don't need a change in the Constitution to be able to take over things in the national interest. But it also had another effect, because that process of reissuing mineral rights in fact meant that all over South Africa there was a new competition for mineral rights. And in South Africa today, some of the most mineral-rich areas are the old Bantustan areas. So what we've seen, ironically, is in the new age, a massive scramble for rights in the old Bantustan areas. And those rights have brought with them enormous potential wealth and intense competition between different groups.
And how much of an effect does history and the lens through which we view history have on the very current issues of land going forward?
Look, I think it has an enormous effect, and it provides many different lenses. So I'll mention a few of them, but part of what The Land Belongs to Us shows, and my subsequent writing, is that in fact the process of dispossession was one which came about almost entirely as a result of the greater coercive capacity of the colonial state. So I think, and it starts from very, very early on. But having said that, there are also a number of other dimensions, one of which is the role of land rights in pre-colonial Africa. What we see when we look at pre-colonial South Africa is that ordinary people, ordinary households, had very, very strong rights to land. Those rights were so strong that people have described them as a form of property right. And chiefs, in fact, had relatively weak rights over land, although they had some sort of overview role. What happens with the colonial period is that, in fact, ordinary people's rights to land is reduced, and the rights of chiefs and officials and others, or traditional leaders, is increased. And one of the crises that we confront in contemporary South Africa is this debate about who are the genuine owners of the land. You've got a strong lobby saying that it's the traditional leaders who should be viewed this way. You've got a counter lobby saying it should be ordinary people and ordinary households. In this debate, I would say that history is firmly on the side of the underdog in this particular debate, certainly on the side of household rights to land as the dominant right. And one could go on.
We don't have too much time, so I'm going to condense my last questions. You've written a book, Putting a Plough to the Ground, from 1850 to 1930. So you understand certain parts of that history and a long way back. Knowing that, and in that context, what do you think the cutoff date, if any, should be for land restitution? And then how do you balance this need that you spoke about for land rights to be returned to their rightful owners with other issues that have come up, people saying that women perhaps are going to be marginalized in this issue around land? Okay,
so the 1913 debate is a very important one, but the date was set at 1913 for good reason, because it was recognized by the drafters of the original legislation that if you went back in time, what you ran into was numerous counterclaims between African societies over who controlled what land at which time. And at the moment we have communal conflict over land. If you opened up hundreds of years of history, we could have terrifying levels of conflict over land. So it's a very bad idea to go back before 1913.
Thank you very much for your time, Professor Peter Delius. He is the author of a book called The Land Belongs to Us, speaking about his book and land restitution in South Africa. It's time for a short break. Nompumelelo and I will have more news for you on the other side.